Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today as we celebrate 8 years of Startup India and the Indian spirit of entrepreneurship during the Startup India Innovation Week 2024. My name is Cheshta Jain. India began its startup journey with the foundation stone led by the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji in 2016 with the launch of the Startup India initiative. Today, startups are a household name and a preferred profession, making India the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. In this session, we would be talking about how, in a mere span of 8 years, India, via its multiple initiatives and incentives for startups, became one of the fastest growing ecosystems in the world. To shed light on this journey, I would like to invite Ms. Aastha Grover, Head Startup India, DPIIT Ministry of Commerce. Ms. Aastha Grover has been the founding member of Startup India team and has seen the ecosystem grow to become the third largest in the world today. She's been the recipient of She Sparks 2023 award in the category titled She Sparks of India by Your Story. She was also felicitated by legendary boxer, Olympic winner Padma Vibhushan MC Mary Kom under the Imagine Treasure Awards for her exceptional achievement and dedication to empowering and uplifting women. She's also been featured in the Tech Panda's 15 Indian Tech Leaders of 2023 list. Astha brings over a decade of experience across consulting, banking, government, and entrepreneurship. She's done her MBA in finance from SP Jain University, Mumbai, and graduation from CBS College of Business Studies, Delhi University. Welcome to the session, Astha, and congratulations on 8 successful years of Startup India.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ishtar, and hello to everyone who's joined us today for this webinar.
So, I would like to begin my first question to you, Astha. Startup India was launched with the Startup India Action Plan in 2016. What did the startup ecosystem look like back then, and how and what was the vision behind the action plan, and how far do you think we've achieved towards the mission?
Sure. Okay, I think it's been 8 years since the action plan was unveiled by the Honorable Prime Minister on 16th January 2016. I think one of the fastest plan to action also. It was in 2015, Independence Day, when the Prime Minister had envisioned that, startups, all of you, entrepreneurs are the future of India, from where the jobs will come, how quickly you're disrupting how we operate in India, and how you are the global trendsetters for the future. So within 5 months from then, the vision of the government was to support every new entrepreneur, everyone who has a dream to start up, and support them primarily across three pillars. The first was simplification and handholding. The endeavor of the government was that let an entrepreneur focus on its key job of doing business, and let the compliances, rules, and regulations be taken care by the government. The second pillar, as we all know, and is a key requirement by all the entrepreneurs, was focused on funding support and incentives around it. And the third was leveraging the power of partnerships. How well can the industry, academia, and all the other partners in this ecosystem can come forward to nurture the entrepreneurs who are brimming and coming up with new ideas. So you also asked me, so this was basically the vision with which it was set up. I think we've come a far, far way from where we started back in 2016 to where we are right now. Just in the number of startups, we were just 300 or 400 back then when we started. Today, we are more than 1,17,000 startups spread across the length and breadth of the country. And I think the most important part for me is that, when we were being associated with this journey, we only saw startups coming or being associated with the metropolitan or the capital cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, and the likes, right? But today, I'm very happy to share that about 50% of the startups that are recognized with the government of India are actually coming from emerging cities, from tier two and tier three cities, and I think that's the power what this ecosystem has done to everyone who has dared to dream and dared to start. These startups alone have created more than 12 lakh jobs, and on an average every startup is creating 11 jobs. The Prime Minister had envisioned that become a nation of job creators than job seekers, and we are inching closer to that every day. When we started back then in 2016, There were just about 4 states that had dedicated startup policy. As we speak today, there are about 31 states and union territories that have come forward to support the startups in their region. Unicorns have become a household name right now and are all over, social media. Different channels have started OTT shows or live television shows showcasing the journey of entrepreneurs. And unicorns back then, only a handful, about 10, 11. Today, there are about 112 unicorns in India, creating a valuation of more than $340 billion. So I believe the ecosystem has matured a lot, and it is not just innovation has taken place in the key areas of IT or IT enabled services, right? We will find an innovation in the agri sector, in the drone, in the space, in the sustainability, in clean tech, you name a sector, and we will have a innovation or an entrepreneur working to solve a problem towards that sector.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for shedding light on this journey, Astha. And now that taking it up from you only, we've heard the term startup ecosystem and several times, not just in this session, but on across, it's a very general term, the startup ecosystem. So, but what does this startup ecosystem contain of, and what is the role of each individual subcomponent here?
Okay, I think a very pertinent question. And going back to the basic, I believe any ecosystem that is trying to nurture its root, that is trying to set the building blocks, is not complete with the support of all the building blocks or enablers that make it complete. For the startup ecosystem, apart from the entrepreneurs, the startups themselves, I think there are a lot of building blocks that have helped this ecosystem grow to where it is today. I'm not saying we are done with the growth, but there are miles to go before we sleep. But some of the key enablers of this ecosystem, I'll start probably with the early stage entrepreneurs. One, the most critical or one of the key elements of an enabling ecosystem player for them would be the incubators and the accelerators. So consider, like the name suggests, an incubation space. It's like a nurturing school for entrepreneurs who have early stage ideas, who want to convert their idea and check its market viability, check its feasibility, want to build from an idea to a POC, or a minimum viable product, as we call it. So incubators will provide you with the physical space, would provide you with the mentors, would provide you with testing beds, research facilities, sometimes funds as well, to help you scale your idea. If you're in the growth stage of your journey, then we have something called as accelerator. Accelerator in India primarily are run by corporates, corporate houses or MNCs. However, a lot of private players are also coming in this ecosystem. The accelerator's job is to, like the name suggests, accelerate your growth journey, right? To help you get more customers, to get you more viability in the market, to help you scale up at an accelerated pace. Coming to the investors, starting from, at the early stage, you have, your friends and families, your angel investors who take the initial risk and give you the seed capital, to family offices, venture capital, venture debt firms, private equities, and the like. So, the investors would form the second most critical pillar of the startup ecosystem, who would provide you the risk capital, who would provide you trust in what you're doing to help you scale up. And now the money they provide you could either be in the form of a debt or an equity or convertible instruments, how you ever may want to structure that deal. The third key element I would think of would be educational institutes, right? Um, I think right from the school or right from in college, people, are thinking of, at least, when I graduated, even though we had a small ESL in my college, but there were very few who were motivated or self-driven enough to sort of start on their own. But as we grow and as we speak, the trends are changing, and educational institutes are becoming a hub. One, not only in teaching you the importance of entrepreneurship as a career option, and second, um, helping you sort of convert your business plans, case studies, and helping you foster innovation research and providing a talent pool that could support you. So educational institutes become extremely important in the journey of an entrepreneur to the startup. I would think of the fourth pillar as the industry associations. that help that already have a pool of their resources, be it MSMEs, be it corporates, and they bring together the startups, one to bridge the gap between startups working with MSMEs and corporates, getting mentorships from them, and doing meaningful programs for them. A very key pillar of this ecosystem, which I believe is sometimes even more important than funding, would also be the mentors and advisors. There's someone who get associated with you very deeply, who help you, not repeat the mistakes made by the others, and who are experienced individuals who offer guidance and industry insights in any domain that you would look like, right? So choose your mentors wisely because they can help you scale up very quickly. Then, like accelerators, they would be corporate partners, financial institutes, and a host of other players who are coming up with dedicated offerings for startups. So we've seen a lot of banks come forward today. Like SBI has special startup branches. There are other private banks as well who are willing to now invest in this asset class and bring in the support that they need for their journey.
Thank you so much, Astha. And now, when we talk of building an ecosystem that is conducive to the growth of startups across all states and union territories equally, then besides the central government policies, what role do states and union territories play in the growth of a startup, and so that the startups benefit and contribute towards the ecosystem better?
Yeah, I think thank you for asking that question because a key pillar of this ecosystem also is the states, right? Um, the growth of any ecosystem is possible when all of them come together and when all of them are working towards a common cause or towards a common mission of supporting the startups. I believe our states have done extremely well in terms of nurturing an ecosystem that is conducive to the growth of the startups and of the entrepreneurs. And in fact, as we speak on the 16th of January, we will also be recognizing the support of these states towards the startup ecosystem and felicitating all the states that have done an outperforming job in nurturing their ecosystem. The felicitation will be done on 16th March, which is the National Startup Day, by the Honorable Commerce and Industry Minister, Shri Piyush Goyal ji. Now, coming back to the role of states, like I mentioned before, from 4 to 31 states and union territories that have a policy today. And the benefit, so if you're an entrepreneur listening to this, how I would see this is that there are a host of benefits that are offered by the government, and there are a host of benefits in addition to what is offered by your state as well. So figure out and be a part of this ecosystem in your state as well. It could be incentive to just help you sustain a sustenance allowance, it could be tax subsidies, it could be funding, it could be direct government orders or procurement. So a lot of these things. From a government journey, I think one of the key projects or one of the key ambitious project that we did to enable this growth was launching the state startup ranking framework back in 2018. Now, imagine the ease of doing business framework by World Bank. This was something that was done to ensure cooperative federalism. It wasn't done to rank states, but in order to encourage states come up with incentives for their ecosystem, and it was done in more of a learning and capacity building exercise. So, as part of this edition, there are a host of workshops, both domestic and internationally, which expose the officers on ground to what this ecosystem comprises of. What is it that you can learn from what the other states are doing? How are some of the international, why is the Silicon Valley today, what has worked well for UK, what has worked well for Germany, exposing them to the international best practices as well. So I believe the state startup ranking framework has been a key pillar in enabling the growth of the states. And today, as we speak, right, there are so many states that have given excessive funds. So, if I have to look at the impact over the years, we've seen states working on providing relaxation on procurement to startups and working directly with them by giving them work orders. We've seen an increase in more than 400% in terms of the startups supported by the state governments themselves directly. We've seen so many states setting up their funds, right? From Kitwin to Gujarat to Orissa, right? We've seen women entrepreneurs being supported through the likes of VHub, AIC Banasthali, and the likes. We've seen states providing marketing assistance, like Kerala taking startups to international platforms and providing them the right platform for growth scale. So I believe a lot of states have done well. A lot of states are trying to do and build and scale up their ecosystem, but it will always be a joint effort of both the center and the state and the other ecosystem enablers, like I mentioned, to help in the journey of startups. And I think anyone who's starting up today should consider themselves lucky, and should consider themselves fortunate enough to be able to have access to so many resources. Entrepreneurship can be a lonely journey, but since it is a household word today, since the Honorable Prime Minister is the biggest cheerleader for startups, I think it has become a little less lonelier and a much more supportive in terms of the efforts from all the stakeholders involved now.
Very well said. Thank you so much for that, Astha. So, Astha, till now we've had our four Ask Me Anything sessions during Innovation Week. And a very common query that we have come across is regarding funding support offered by the government to startups. And it is understood that access to the right kind of funds at the right time often becomes very crucial for a startup survival. So, how is the government helping startups in accessing fundings across its journey?
I would support the question. In my 8 years journey of addressing audiences, of interacting with startups, I think the most common query always is about how can I access funds, how can I get funding support, how is it that I can, become take my startup to the next level. And the first thing I have to say is that there are more number of ideas and dreams than the number of funds. However, there are enough and ample funds for startups who are doing well. So instead of just blindly chasing funds right from the go get, the first thing I would say is to um, become or prove the worth of your startup. There is enough money to chase good startups. Is your product validated by the market? Is your product ready to be accepted by the customers to whom you are pitching? Can you be sustainable enough without the funding as well? If the basics can be set in place, I think the next phase would be then to look at funds. And even when you're starting, I think how you should approach an entrepreneur's approach to the funding guide one should be first by looking at the grant money, right? That grant money given by the government at early stages. Now, as the name suggests, it's a grant. It comes with no obligation of equity or debt, but it is given on a milestone basis that uh, milestones which would be set against the money that you're receiving in the form of grant. The grants are available by a host of government departments subject to the sector that you're operating in. So figure out what sector and what ministry applies to you, right? The Department of Science and Technology has the Nidhi Prayas scheme. The Ministry of Electronics and IT has tied. The Ministry of Agriculture is working on the Raftar scheme. We at DPIT Startup India have also come up with the Startup India Seed Fund scheme that provides you with grant and convertible debt options in terms of the funding that you have to receive. So I think the first thing for an entrepreneur should be to figure out the sector and the schemes that would apply to them. Now, DPIT being the nodal ministry for startups, all our schemes are sector agnostic. And the Startup India Seed Fund scheme was introduced about 2 years ago. And what we've done in this journey is we've completely digitized the process of how startups can approach funding. And through the portal that we've developed on the Startup India website, you can approach an incubator and can apply for funds. You can get a support of 2 rupees 20 lakh as grant or about 50 lakh through debt. It is an ongoing scheme, so there is no fixed deadline. However, since it is an early stage scheme, you should not be more than 2 years old since the date of your incorporation. So far, more than 1,700 startups have been selected as the beneficiary of the scheme who have received some form of grant or debt, and about 300 crores have been injected into the ecosystem to support startups through the seed fund scheme alone. Now, as you mature in your journey, right? The next area to look at is the state fund that could help you support. Again, all the states, like I mentioned, have come up with incentives. If I'm not wrong, there are more than 19 plus states who have dedicated funds at present for this ecosystem. And all you need to do is, again, if you don't know the policy of your state, you can simply come to the Startup India website and look at the details of these policies on what are the fiscal and non-fiscal incentives available under this policy for you. So look at the funds that is offered by the state. The third, I would say, is when you are in the growth phase of your journey, when you are maturing, there are two options, right? Debt and equity. So for debt, which is when you're securing loan from the bank, we've recently introduced the credit guarantee scheme for startups. What it does is that, banks often have that inherent risk of lending to startups because lack of collateral, lack of any capital assets, lack of any plant and machinery like structure, right? So what we've done is we are saying that the bank, that the debt of the bank that they give to the startups will be backed by the government. So this gives more confidence to the banks to lend more freely to the startups. And through the credit guarantee scheme, loans are being offered to startups which are backed and guaranteed by the government. More details of it again can be found either on the Startup India website or on the National Credit Guarantee Trust Corporation, who's running this scheme. Now, if you would want to look at the equity side of growth stage funding, we have the Fund of Funds, which is managed by SIDBI, which is the Small Industrial Development Bank of India. Now, this was launched along with the action plan, a 10,000 crore corpus that works to inject funds to the venture capital funds, and venture capitals further invest in startups. So far, we have about 129 VCs, or alternate investment funds, as we call them, who have been approved this funding, and more than 939 startups have been invested in this through the scheme. Now, if you are a startup who's looking to know which are these investors who have got the funds from the government and are willing to invest in startups, all you need to do is go to the Investor Connect portal where the investors are listed, and where the investors have also told you, what are their investment thesis, which sector are they investing in, what is the ticket size that they're looking at, what kind of startups are they looking at, and any other details as per their investment thesis. It is out there. You can connect and find the investors, and a lot of investors have given their calls that, I'm looking for investors in this area, or I'm looking for startups in AI space, I'm looking for startups especially to fund for women entrepreneurs and the likes. So Investor Connect portal should be your go-to platform for connecting with the right investors and finding all the investors funded by the government of India under the Fund of Funds scheme. I have spoken more of the funding schemes that are available by DPIIT and some other departments and ministries and states, but there are a host of others. In fact, there's a funding guide available on Startup India website. I hope you find it useful.
So I'm sure a lot of our viewers will definitely will make use of it, and it'll be helpful for them for sure. So Astha, in our previous questions, we very briefly discussed about women entrepreneurship and how it has been rising in India. So I would want to know from you that you being a woman very actively contributing in the women in the startup ecosystem, what has been your vision towards encouraging women in leadership roles in the startup ecosystem? And what initiatives of Startup India have actually played a role in increasing the number of women entrepreneurs in India?
Yeah, I think just by looking at this webinar, Cheshta, thanks to you addressing it, and for me, sort of addressing these queries and walking you through the journey. I think more than incentives laid down on paper, we walk the talk as well. And Cheshta, you would know that our team is represented by more than 50% women already. But the sheer merit of the talent they bring on the table. I think all our incentives, all our programs that we have been doing have centered women at the heart of it. We would want women to equally participate and take up the incentives, and very actively ensure that at least one third of all the programs that we do have women beneficiaries as part of it. However, in the years that I have seen interacting with women entrepreneurs, I think a common ask has been, one, for women to find a platform to network. Second, for women to find a platform to pitch to investors. And even though they may not be looking at funds at this stage, but they would want to understand what better they can do. So pitch to get feedback in terms of what more they can do. And The third ask has been around marketing sort of support for their businesses. So I think keeping all this in line, we have been focusing a lot on capacity development workshops for women entrepreneurs through the state chapters. So, starting with a program that we did called Wing to a program this year that we called Women for Startups State Workshop. We've covered through Wing, we did workshops across 10 states, working with more than 1,300 entrepreneurs. Through the next edition of this, we worked with more than 21 states and 24 districts, touching more than 2,000 plus entrepreneurs. And I think some amazing, amazing talent that is lying out there. In the states, and this year what was different was we took the investors with us to the state workshops, because we want to take the network with us. While we have made it digitized through the Investor Connect or the Mentorship Connect platform, but taking the investors with you also exposes them to the on ground ecosystem. And some on the spot deals were announced when the women were pitching. And I think what enabled this was also the pitch to perfect capacity building sessions which Cheshta, you and your team did with them, right? Telling them on how to be better storytellers, on how to pitch their stories, and how to utilize that 30-90 seconds of that time that they get with the investors very well in terms of how they are explaining it. um, I think besides that, what I would also want to say is that a women entrepreneur is no different from an entrepreneur. Like a women leader is no different
Right.
from a leader. It just happens to be women by gender. Same goes for the entrepreneur itself. So I think everything that we do is open for all the entrepreneurs at large. And to just inspire you and to just, help you get inspired and motivated by the journey of other women, we also launched a podcast series called Super 3, featuring stories of exceptional women entrepreneurs through different platforms, and taking you through their learnings and taking you through their mistakes, so that it helps you in your journey as well. um, Besides that, I think the fund of funds of 10,000 crore that I just spoke about also, has invested more than 1,000 crore in women-led startups by itself. One third of our beneficiaries are startups in most of the schemes and programs that we do. And like I said, we walk the talk, always wanting to help and support more women entrepreneurs and more entrepreneurs that are around us.
Thank you so much, Astha. That was indeed very, very helpful. And now having discussed about all the incentives and the funding support that is being offered by the government, what more is being done so that new ideas and initiatives of founders of startups, they feel acknowledged and encouraged from the government's end.
I think acknowledgement and encouragement goes a long, long way in helping a startup. It gives them validation. It gives them a sense check. It gives them it opens a lot of doors for them when the government says that hey, you're doing something amazing. We would want to recognize you. We would want to acknowledge you. We would want to reward you, and we would want to work more closely with you. So with that objective and with that initiative and thought in mind, we launched the National Startup Awards about a couple of years ago, and today we are in the fourth edition as we speak. The fourth edition will be felicitated by the Honorable Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal again on the National Startup Day. Um, I think the journey has been beautiful, first to say it. One, the talent that we find when we're looking to acknowledge people who are doing well across sectors, people who are doing well across, we have special categories also, like people who have started from school levels, people who are doing well in sustainability, people who are doing leading, who have pivoted very well from what they were doing earlier to where they are right now. So we do understand that entrepreneurship may not be perfect from the get go, and you have to pivot. And it's okay if you fail as long as you're starting up again as well. So, encouraging second time entrepreneurs, finding how they are pivoting and doing so well. It's been an overwhelming journey, and the National Startup Award, you know, seems to find the hidden talent from the length and breadth of the country. When we started, there was a lot of buzz. People were applying. This edition, We've seen more than 2,000 applications, but the beauty of it was that they came from all the 36 states and union territories that we have. So I think the ecosystem is excited and looks forward to it. But more than the award that they get as part of National Startup Awards, personally, I think how they benefit more is in terms of the dedicated handholding that follows after the awards are given. So when every year we acknowledge and felicitate the winners, post which it does not end there, right? It does not end there with the cash grant or the acknowledgement by the government. This is the pool that we work dedicatedly with throughout the year, connecting them with investors, connecting them with government departments who they can pitch to, connecting them with international platforms, taking them to represent the best of the Indian innovations at global platforms, from something like a slush to COP28 to Web Summit to Viva Tech and the likes, right? So I think the handholding, the one-on-one mentorship, the connects that they get post getting the recognition is something which I would find any entrepreneur to find more meaningful and helpful than the acknowledgement alone. And I think the support goes a long way in their journey. And we've had some beautiful startups and success stories coming off from it. Startups reaching the unicorn level to startups from this pool coming on Shark Tank to pitch, startups, getting international orders, signing MOUs with a lot of international agencies as well to help them scale up. So I think the message for the ones who have not applied to the National Startup Awards yet, while we are in the phase of declaring the results for the last edition, the applications for the next one should be out somewhere around April or May, and keep a lookout for that through the Startup India website.
Thank you, Astha. I think I would like to take my next question from a few project names that you mentioned, like Viva Tech COP28 and Slush. So these all being international platforms, basically, and international events. So what has Startup India's role been, and how is Startup India ensuring that Indian startups get to scale globally and get an opportunity to showcase at global platforms like these?
Right. So I think, well, most of the pool of the 1 lakh plus startups that we have are early stage entrepreneurs, but a handful of them are also in the growth and the validation stage. And, like I said, we work across sectors, we work across stages of entrepreneurs. So for the growth stage startups, particularly, the international market access programs comes in very handy. The objective of this platform of the international market access is to help a startup from India cater to the global market. Be it helping them expand to the global market, helping them find new customers, helping them find investors. Um, and over the years, I've seen how the trends have changed. Earlier, it was difficult for the international audience to see such a beautiful Indian product at the low cost or at the frugal price point that it was doing something remarkable, right? Be it breast cancer testing, early detection devices, or be it a device that could help you skill, and if you can't speak it, it can help you at least get some voice out, be it the braille literacy devices that we have. A lot of these startups have done remarkably well in the pitching to the international audience as well. And how we enable this is through the international bridges that we have. So Startup India, through its counterpart in different countries, we have so far 20 international bridges. Now what a bridge is, consider it to be a soft landing platform where we work with a counterpart in that country, which could be the startup central startup agency, which could be the government agency, which could be the foreign mission that we have there, the Indian embassies there, that would first help you with the legalities. So we do a lot of mentorship sessions across what it takes to expand to the other country, be it in terms of legal, visa, regulatory requirements. Then we do, a lot of these pitching and networking sessions where we expose you to the corporates and the investors from that region so that you could also bring and this connects. And sometimes the magic also just happens when startups to startups in the same sector from different countries are sort of interacting and coming together at the common platform. So we have bridges with a lot of countries, 20, like I said, and you will have people from Middle East, so UAE, Qatar, Saudi we have recently done. From European we have a lot of these, Finland, Netherlands and all. We have Singapore, we have Israel, we have Taiwan. A lot of these countries, the whole list and the bridges that are available, you can find on the Startup India website again. And I think, apart from the bridges that we have, I would also like to highlight how startups today have found their names at the global platforms as well. So, very, very proud to say that, in under India's G20 presidency, Startup 20 was the only engagement group that got its approval and recommendation from all the member countries was set through under India's presidency, and the baton is now being has been passed to Brazil to take it forward. But I think some things the teams have worked very hard towards, and getting startup a recognition at the global forum means that startups are contributing well enough to the economy, means that they are important enough for all the countries to sort of, be a discussion topic in all the multilateral engagements that we have. So, not just G20, but we have BRICS coming up. We have Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in which India has a permanent residency for the innovation and the startup working group, and ASEAN summit that we did. So it is very, very heartening to see how startups are not just a household name in India, but also have got their due credit and merit at international platforms as well.
Lovely. Astha, in this answer, while you were answering this, you said you gave an instance about how of a startup testing its product. And a similar question that has also come up to us in this session is that while a startup has made its product, it needs market access. Now, since you've shed light already on the international opportunities of market access that Startup India provides, a question a user wants to ask that what is the how can they access, how can that particular user or startup have market access to test their products in the Indian market domestically?
Okay, so I think first, like I said, incubators are your test bed to help you get the minimum viable product, to help you test. There are a lot of government research labs that would also provide you these test beds. I think in terms of market access, there are two ways how I look at it. One is, once your product is ready, uh, and if you want to sell to the government e-marketplace comes in very handy. And on the government e-marketplace, back in 2019 itself, we launched the GEM Startup Runway, which was to highlight to all the government departments and public sector undertakings that were, doing their procurement needs from the platform, to showcase what the Indian startups are doing, and by showcase having a dedicated platform for them, so all your innovations get featured there. Second, the startups are exempted from prior experience, turnover, and the requirement to submit EMD through all the government tenders and CPSUs, and through at GEM as well. In terms of numbers, more than 22,000 startups are onboarded on GEM already, who have catered more than 250,000 orders worth 20,000 crores. So I think the startups are clocking in a lot of orders and selling to the government through the GEM platform. If you're not already on GEM, I think it's an easy process of registration. Please do so. If you have challenges in registration, we can help you connect with the GEM team. In fact, as we speak, we are organizing a lot of workshops. There's a workshop happening in Mumbai on 16th Jan for GEM startup training, and there was one that happened in Telangana very recently, and there are more that we keep doing online and across different states that could help you register on GEM and can help you solve your queries. And in terms of, I would say, domestic access to customers, to Indian corporates and customers, we also work very closely with the corporates, right? So the corporates are also looking for, cannot always disrupt themselves, cannot always invest in their R&D to work and develop a product. So what they often do is they throw up challenge statements or problem statements which they feel would be either valuable for them internally or for their clients which they cater to. So we work with more than 200 plus corporates who have supported more than 1,500 startups with more than 60 crores of funding as well, and mentorship goes separate. But I think the key takeaway is that you get access to that corporate's senior leadership, you get access to that corporates, customers, and clients, and you sort of get a way to serve all of them and their value chain if you are part of these open innovation challenges that we through the website, through the Startup India pillar as well. So I think these are some of the ways I would look at market access.
Thank you, Astha. And in this session, we've very beautifully learned about the initiatives and support to existing entrepreneurs as of now. But however,
Hmm.
a vast set of Indian population also aspires to begin their own ventures, but they lack guidance in starting their entrepreneurial journeys. So, how is the government supporting aspiring entrepreneurs to start up, basically?
Yeah, I think for all the audiences out there who are looking to just start up, or who are aspiring to become an entrepreneur, I think looking at one, the idea feasibility. So I think often I'm also asked, I don't have an idea, but how do I go about it? So for them, I always say that look at a problem around, and like a prime minister always says that even though there might be a million of problems, but you have a billions of minds to solve those problems. Some of these ideas you've also listed as an idea bank on the Startup India website for you to explore and navigate and figure out if this is something you would want to take up. Besides that, I think the power of a mentor is underleveraged and underutilized, and to help an entrepreneur start well, or to sort of get the right advisory and guidance, our mentorship platform, which is called Mark, was launched. Now, what this platform does is it has digitized the connects between any entrepreneur aspiring or established with anyone looking to give back to the society, any mentor, on a pro bono basis. So, Mark stands actually for mentorship, advisory, assistance, resilience, and growth. This has been a program that has been launched as part of the National Startup Advisory Council that is chaired by the Honorable Commerce and Industry Minister. It was a need identified there. It was a program that we delivered. It is basically a platform that has brought together 1,400 mentors and more, growing as we speak, to connect with. So far, we have about 2,100 startups. What this platform does is it will match make your mentorship or guidance needs with the right mentor, irrespective of the location. So all you have to say is that I'm looking for guidance either in any particular sector or a domain. You may need help in fundraising, you may need help in marketing, you may need help in idea testing, you may need help in building a POC or an MVP. So whatever your domain needs be, would have a matching mentor for you who has committed to provide mentorship on a pro bono basis through that platform. And happy to share that more than 5,800 hours of mentorship has also been delivered. We also keep taking active programs on this platform, which are the common needs of this ecosystem, so that the mentors or the aspiring entrepreneurs can get the most from it. Chester, you're on mute.
So sorry. Thank you so much, Astha. I will be asking my last question to you now, and then we'll open the room for questions from the audience. So, now having initiated multiple initiatives and transforming India as the third largest startup ecosystem in the world in a very short span of 8 years, how are we foreseeing the future of Indian startups, and where do we see the Indian startup ecosystem by the year 2030?
I think beautiful question. And like I said before, it's just the start of a beautiful journey. Even though it's been 8 years, but there's a lot that we still have to deliver. And like the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister towards a Viksit Bharat, I believe today every institute and every individual should move with the resolution that every effort and act will be for the development of India, will be for a Viksit Bharat. So, how we look at it is that today, one, um, there has to be a global mindset of making a product. So like you said, an Indian product which is catering to the global audience as well. So I will see a lot of emergence of these products or services as well. Second, even though entrepreneurship has propelled to the household names, and people are more open to the idea of entrepreneurship, I will see this trickle down further to every zilla, every district, and the coverage would definitely be much higher in terms of people accepting your families, your parents, your surroundings, your friends, celebrating entrepreneurs, celebrating failures, celebrating second time, third time entrepreneurs as well. So I would see a lot of those changes. I would see startups working a lot towards the sustainable development goals, towards net zero, towards a lot of areas where actually support and innovation is needed. And I would see a lot of women taking up leadership positions in the startup roles, not just directors, but I would, a lot of co-founders, more equity holders. So I would see women becoming a strong pillar on in driving this growth. Um, I would believe that entrepreneurship would not be restricted to a particular sector. It will cut, the technology advancements would cut across sector. Like AI would be across health, across robotics, across agri, across a lot of different sectors. So I would see a lot of technology aspects covering and transcending boundaries and sectors. Finally, I think um, this is the period in the history of India when the country is going to take a quantum leap. And for India, this is the time, the right time. And as has been said multiple times, yahi samay hai, sahi samay hai.
Right. Thank you so much, Astha. And now we've opened the room for questions. So a user is rather saying that, hi, I am from Nagaland, and I want to begin my startup journey. How can Startup India help me? And is there any event or program that I can attend to know more?
Hi to you from Nagaland. Good to see you join us today. We do multiple programs across states. In fact, in Delhi, we have, like I mentioned, on 16th January, the some ceremonies for National Startup Awards and Stage Ranking Framework. But for you to start up, I would say that keep a lookout for the sessions we do through the mentorship platform called Mark, where in fact a series is running on how to become an entrepreneur, on how from idea to a business plan and further. So that would be helpful. You can reach out to us anytime through our coordinates, email, contact us form, which is available on the website, and we respond to all of it. We can come to Nagaland and deliver and talk more about it. In fact, there is a series of workshops that we would be taking starting mid-Jan, and we would be across multiple states in India and Northeast as well, especially through the program called Ascend, where we work on capacity building of entrepreneurs, especially early stage in the states of the Northeastern region.
Thank you, Astha. Another user wants to ask, what all projects and programs are you bringing to other parts to India and the Indian startup ecosystem? So I think basically the user wants to ask of the upcoming projects and programs that we are bringing for them. If you would like to shed light on that.
Sure. Thank you for asking, in fact. And I think it's also good to reflect. So every year we reflect on what we have delivered and what we could achieve, what we could not achieve, and what better we can do. So this year, with the reflections that we have from the previous year, we wanted to focus a lot more on domestic capital, on increasing and sensitizing the investors on why they can look at startups as an investment class and how they can invest more. So we are doing a lot of workshops to sensitize HNIs, high net worth individuals, and taking these angel workshops across cities to enable more domestic capital for the ecosystem. This will also be followed by institutional domestic capital, which comes through pension funds, insurance funds, gratuity, endowments, and the like. So we also would want to help them understand that the returns and the versus the risk, of course, which the startup ecosystem has, and how they could invest more, how they can learn from the players who've already invested and done well. So a lot of focus this year is on enabling more domestic capital. Second, we wanted to provide more deeper handholding across starting with key sectors. So we have just launched a program called Startup Shala, which is the startup accelerator program. We're starting with the clean tech sector first, followed by deep tech. But the idea is to provide a 3 month dedicated handholding to select entrepreneurs that will entail working with partners, working with corporates, one-on-one mentorship, shadowing people who have done well in this phase, and commitments from a lot of key enablers in this ecosystem, and providing you a complete toolkit and I would say a resource guide that could help you scale up in this journey. So the Startup Shala program would also be out soon. What else? Um, yeah, I think we will increase our outreach to all the states and union territories so that we also get to interact with you in person and get to address your queries and get to take any feedback that you have for us. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Astha. Mr. Avik Bardhan is asking, we are a startup at a very nascent stage of our journey. At this stage, the kind of challenges that we are facing is how to reach out to either the state or central government seeking mainly mentorship besides the scope of funding. Will reaching out to the mentors listed in the website for specific sectors help?
I think absolutely, Avik. What you should do is my advice to you would be one, look at the Mark portal, Mentorship Advisory Assistance Resilience Growth portal. मार्क के थ्रू आपको अच्छे से मेंटरशिप और मेंटर्स मिलेंगे, बहुत सारे मिलेंगे आपके सेक्टर्स में, आपके डोमेन्स में. दैट्स वन. Secondly, if you're particularly looking for some state government support or state officials, तो आप जब हमारे स्टार्टअप इंडिया वेबसाइट पे जाते हो जहाँ पे आप स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की स्कीम्स देखोगे, वहाँ पे हर स्टेट के नोडल एजेंसी लिखी हुई है विद देयर कॉन्टैक्ट डिटेल्स. तो हर स्टेट की नोडल एजेंसी से यू कैन कनेक्ट and you know their details are out there so that you can also reach out to them for support. But my sense is the private mentors, the people who have also committed to pro bono mentorship, would be able to guide you better through their personal experiences, through their own journey, through their experience of scaling up their ventures as well.
Thank you, Astha. I hope that would be helpful to a week. And one last question that we would be taking, and it's a very light-hearted question come up from a user. He's asking one word that you would like to say for the 8 years of Startup India's journey.
It's difficult to define it in 8 years, but I would say it's been incredible. Um, and I would always like to end with this quote that miles to sleep, miles to go before we sleep. A lot has been done, and a lot more needs to be done. And we'll not rest, we'll not settle in, we'll not mask in the glory of all what has been done, but we will keep continuing to deliver and serve this ecosystem for the betterment of the startups.
Right. Thank you so much, Astha, for taking out your time to conduct this session and sharing such valuable insights about Startup India and the Indian startup ecosystem as a whole. I'm sure this session would act as a booster in guiding startups to leverage the opportunities offered by the government. And on this note, I'd also like to thank everyone for joining and engaging with us and making this session so wonderful. And a few questions that have come up is where can we reach out and we want to know more about Startup India. So I would like to tell everybody that you can know more about Startup India at our website, which is startupindia.gov.in. And also to know about the chain of activities that are being conducted in the month of January specifically as we celebrate Innovation Week and 8 years of Startup India, you can also visit the Innovation Week webpage at the Startup India website. So, with this, we will flag off today's session. My best wishes to everyone and happy innovating. Thank you.
Thank you.